name's Ornn. No further pleasantries needed. This is a waste of my time. Incoming! Job complete. Just leave everything to me, as usual. You like that? I do. Stop it. I'm used to this level of disappointment. I now like you less. I did not think that was possible.
What's up guys, Chris here. This is going to be a champion preview featuring the newest champion that was just announced a couple of hours ago, Ornn, the Fire Below the Mountain. Now it looks like he's going to be a top laner / support. He could also be in the jungle. Unsure exactly, but we will find out as more information is released. This video is going to serve as kind of like a primer and show you what his abilities do and what you can expect, and also my own opinions on him. So hopefully you guys enjoy it for what it is. Without further ado, let's get started. Starting out with his passive, which is probably one of the most interesting and unique things about him, and not just him, but the game in general. It's a new concept which allows Ornn to actually build his own items in his lane and not have to go back to base to buy those items. He can just build them as he gets the gold and pretty much stay in lane as long as he's not harassed, I guess, out of lane. He can just stay there and continually upgrade and build items as he farms. So that's really cool and interesting. There's also a passive part of his passive called Master Craftsman, which allows Ornn and his teammates to have access to special upgrades for select items in the shop. Now keep in mind, at the time of making this video, Ornn hasn't been released to the PvE, so it's still unclear about what these upgrades are going to entail, what they're going to do, and what they're going to be able to bring to the game. But it's an interesting concept to say the least, so let's move on to his next ability. Ornn's Q is called Volcanic Rupture. Ornn slams the ground, sending out a fissure that deals physical damage and slows enemies. After a small delay, a magma pillar forms at the target location, functioning like a tiny wall for a few seconds. Now, from my first glance of this ability, it does look like it's going to be a narrower skill shot, so it will take practice to be able to aim it properly. And they have kind of confirmed that the wall, the tiny wall that it forms at the end, is similar to an Anivia wall or a Trundle pillar, but it's obviously much smaller. So it will serve a purpose in the sense if you're chasing somebody down and you place it in front of them and kind of cut them off unexpectedly, they will be forced to go around it. Or if you use it with other obstructions like an Anivia wall or a Trundle pillar, and you place it in addition of those obstructions, you can cut off an escape route if somebody gets around the pillar. If there's a hole in the wall, you can place it in that hole, or place it to the right or to the left of the pillar, wherever the enemy is going to escape, and kind of cut off their escape route. So it'll be fun and interesting to see what people pull off with this ability. Next up, we have Ornn's W, which is called Bellows Breath. Ornn becomes unstoppable, shields himself, and belches out flames. These flames deal a portion of the enemy's current health as magic damage. Enemies struck by the final gout of flame become brittle. Ornn's basic attacks knock back brittle targets. Now, brittle is the passive part of Bellows Breath. When brittle, enemies suffer a portion of their maximum health as bonus damage when struck by immobilizing effects. Immobilizing effects also last longer when used on brittle enemies. Now, this is really interesting and obviously a new mechanic to League. Being able to make slows and stuns last longer on top of the huge percent health that Bellows Breath brings to the table is going to make Ornn a strong pick into a CC-oriented comp. Now, I'm just speaking in hypotheticals at this point, since we don't really have any specifics at the time of making this video, but it does seem that Ornn is going to be one of those champions that you pick and kind of build around, as he brings a lot of potential to a team comp, and it'll be fun to see what people can do with him and also what he's capable of. So let's move on to his E, which is called Searing Charge. Ornn charges, dealing damage to enemies he passes through. If Ornn collides with terrain while charging, the impact creates a shockwave that deals damage and knocks enemies up. This ability destroys player-created terrain. So this looks similar to an old-school Poppy stun, but it is, I think, an AoE. So if he charges one person into the wall and they're fleeing with like their entire team, you can manage a sizable knockup with this ability. And the fact that you can destroy player terrain, I just like imagine an Anivia placing down a wall in the jungle, thinking she's free, but Ornn charges through it and breaks it down, opening the floodgates for his team to chase her down and kill her. Definitely a lot of potential with this kit so far. Let's move on to his ultimate, his R, and this is called Call of the Forge God. Ornn summons a massive fire elemental at the target location and then travels towards him with increasing speed. Enemies run over by the elemental, take magic damage, and become brittle. Ornn can then recast this ability to charge forward. If he strikes the elemental with the charge, he'll redirect it. The redirected elemental will then knock up struck enemies, dealing the same damage as before and applying the brittle effect. So there's a lot of things involved with this ultimate. The first being that you can knock people up on the recast of the ultimate if you charge at it, and the second thing is it applies the brittle effect. The ultimate applies the brittle effect, which we've seen before. It makes it so that the target, if they get CC'd, take % health damage, and also the CC lasts longer. So I think Ornn is going to be like a wombo combo god in the fact that he can knock people up not only with his R but also his charge if he charges them into the wall. So he's going to bring a lot of utility, a lot of CC, a lot of potential to pretty much any team comp that is looking to set up some kind of wombo combo, or any team looking for a hard engager or somebody who can put out a ton of % health, since that's what Riot is so big on nowadays. He looks like he's going to be a strong pick, at least from my perspective, and of course, like I said before, he hasn't been put onto the PvE, so we don't really know numbers, we don't know what kind of items he can build for his teammates or himself, so yeah. It's up in the air at this point. This is just my first impression, my first thoughts on the newest champion, Ornn. The fire down below.